r/AskReddit. People who were in a coma, what change surprised you when you woke up? I was in a coma for 4 days. When I woke up everyone was talking about the baby boy I had. I had lost my long-term memory and didn't even remember being pregnant. My son was at the children's hospital in the NICU. I delivered him via C-section at 29 weeks. All this was due to me having Crohn's disease. I found out after I woke up my colon had ruptured during my pregnancy. My husband said I was talking like a child when I first woke up. When I woke I felt super tired, but then the next few days, kinda restless. I remembered one conversation my mom had with a nurse while I was under. After a couple of days I got my long-term memory back and remembered everything up until my second surgery, then nothing until I woke up. My son was my third surgery, so my son was what surprised me. Back in the 90s, my great-grandfather had a stroke. He was in a coma for 3 weeks, and when he woke up, he could not speak English. All he could speak was the Choctaw language. He had learned it when he was a kid because his family lived right near a Choctaw reserve, and he played with a lot of those kids. He spoke it fluently at that time, but forgot it over his life to where he couldn't remember any of it by this time. This went on for around 10 days, and then he woke up from a night's sleep and could suddenly speak only English again, not remembering a word of Choctaw. He was also able to repeat verbatim every conversation that had been held in the room that he was in. I was in a coma for 9 days. When I woke up I was still on a ventilator. When they took me off the ventilator, my body didn't remember to breathe on its own. I literally had to relearn how to breathe. Took me a few days. I had no natural sense for how long or deeply to inhale, how long to hold it, how long to exhale. I had to put all my mental focus towards breathing. It was really weird. Edit. For all the people wondering how I slept, I didn't for the first couple days. If I dozed off, my blood O2 monitor would start beeping and wake me up. Then a nurse would yell at me from across the ICU to remember to breathe. I couldn't talk because I'd had the tubes down my nose and throat, but I remember one time I woke up, really exhausted, to that damn beeping. So I started focusing on breathing again, but I was really angry about it. My nurse came running over yelling at me to breathe. I glared at her and screamed in my non-existent voice, I am. She must have read my lips and felt the rage because she just put her hands up and said, alright, good job, then walked away. Anyway, shared that because I've never had the opportunity to before. My ability to breathe normally was back within a month or so, and my health is good nowadays, so I wouldn't say it had any permanent effects. I'm now manual breathing, so thanks for that. Don't forget to blink. You dick ass. You've ruined my next 30 minutes. Fuck it, now I'm breathing and blinking manually. What's next? Don't forget to control your bladder. And don't forget to find a comfortable place to rest your tongue in your mouth. There is none. My mom was in a induced coma for 3 months. When she woke up she thought the hospital was trying to kill her. She tried to get out of bed and she fell on the floor because she could not walk. She was mostly freaked about how her feet had lost their form. They were humped over from not being used. Every muscle she had to learn again. She couldn't talk well or write at all. She has different handwriting after relearning. She said she hated how perfect her hands looked. Her nails and cuticles were perfect and clean from not being used. I remember trying to brush her hair after she woke up. Almost all of it fell out. She almost died pretty much every day she was in her coma. She had sepsis from a diverticulitis surgery gone wrong. A lot of her hair has grown back and she can walk, but has brain damage that makes her seem very drunk. She is always dizzy, but it's been 5 years now, and her recovery has been miraculous. Scary. My mother has diverticulitis, but refuses to have the surgery. My mom ended up with an emergency ostomy, IDK how to spell it. She was so upset when she woke up to find she had a bag. She wished she was dead for so long, even to the point of telling us all we had to let her go. It was really hard time for my family. In and out of behavior hospitals for about 2 years after. Now she has the hang of it and says I would never have reconstruction surgery because I'm in no pain and would never risk having to be in diverticulitis pain again. I hope your mother can find the courage to have the surgery. Even though mine had a terrible battle with the surgery gone wrong, I'm so happy she's not in pain any longer. I think they just get used to the pain and normalize it, not realizing how much better quality of life could be having the surgery. My mom put it off for a long time as well. It was hell. A good friend of our family went into a coma for half a year. Finally when he woke up, he was stunned why his wife looked so old. He actually lost the last 15 years of his memory. He knew he had 2 children, but they were babies, and he didn't even know about his 3rd child. And the memory never came back. He skipped from no mobile phones to smartphones, to laptops. Everything was new to him. Being stuck in early 90s, but actually being in the 2000s, there was a lot of change to handle. But learning you missed all your children growing up was the hardest for him. This is the saddest story I've seen in this thread. Oh lord, this is awful. He must feel like he's being punished, and it must be for something terrible. At least he knew who his wife was. If they had met after his memory line, he wouldn't know anything about her. I knew a guy who lost the last few years of his memory, including his wife and baby, after getting blown up in Iraq. To him he fell asleep in the early weeks of basic training for the army, and woke up on the streets of Iraq with gunfire and strangers dragging him to cover. Luckily one guy in our platoon went to basic with him, and was able to calm him down. Separated from the military and his life has never been the same. He is still largely functional, but can have pretty bad mood swings and headaches at times. His wife is a saint though. She basically pulled out all the stops and got super romantic with him to make him fall in love again. She contacted various guys in the unit a lot for different ideas, because she was terrified he would fall in love with someone else and leave. It was sweet, and I'm only a little jealous that she basically had to go full on rom-com to keep him. My wife was in a coma 2 weeks medically induced. When she woke she had very wrong memories. They were all based on conversations people had while in the room with her. For example, she thought they flew her to Washington DC for treatment. While she was in a coma, my father-in-law mentioned how he just flew back into town from DC on a work trip. Somehow, she overheard this while out, and her brain interpreted it to mean she flew to DC. Even after we explained to her the reality of where she was, it took days for her to come to terms with reality. She was in a coma about 10 years ago. She is not currently in a coma. My brother-in-law had a brain tumor, so he was out for a while when he was first brought to the hospital. The nurses happened to be of Asian descent, so when he was awake he kept apologizing to people for making them have to come to Japan to see him.